Welcome to my channel. I'm Amanda and I'm sitting here in our studio in Brisbane, Australia. And I don't normally make videos like this where I'm talking to the camera, so it feels a little bit unusual. But um, I thought I would make a video today about the 5 things. So 5 things that I do every day, and this is a practice, I guess. I don't, I don't know if I'd call it a discipline so much, but it's 5 things that I do every day, pretty much without fail, and I have done for many years now. So the first one, and I guess this came out of, watching YouTube videos myself and realizing that maybe I do have something to say here. Um, it's a weird space. I'm not used to. Very used to being in front of a class and talking about yoga, and there's things that I do outside of yoga, and I'll talk about those as well. But I just thought that this might be helpful for people to listen to a little bit of stuff about self-development, which I've been into from a very, very young age. Um, so here we go. So the first thing that I do every day as part of my practice, and I'm not going to even call it a spiritual practice because it's not. I write, I journal, I sometimes it's like a stream of consciousness writing, like from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which I've read and practiced 4 times or 5 times now. I love that book to bits. Sometimes it's a few little notes about what I'm going to do that day or how I'm feeling. Sometimes my journaling turns into a blog post. And one thing I heard recently was about how a creative idea only has a limited amount of time to kind of roll around in your brain before you really have to take action on it. And it really stuck with me. So any time now that I get inspiration, I know, write it down or capture it so that I can do something with it. It's like the meat. And the meat is happening every day, in every minute, in every way. So journaling for me, it's the first thing I do in the morning, but besides having a cup of coffee, but I actually do it throughout the day if I feel inspired and if I'm around my journal. So there you go. So journaling, definitely a number one practice for me. Um, number two is I meditate. So I meditate, and again, my meditation doesn't take the same form every day. Like I was taught many years ago that you were supposed to have one mantra and one mantra only, and you should be given that by your master or your guru, and you should practice that. And that didn't really work very well for me. I find that in my meditation practice, what will work one day might not work for me the next day. So I tend to um, feel into the moment and let the universe draw me in. So one day it might be, I know, I'm going to use mantra, I'm going to use my mala. Or another day I might just sit quietly with my breath. Some days I might follow a guided nidra by somebody on Insight Timer other than me. So sometimes I think I feel like it's really good for me to mix it up and not just be in my own head. Sometimes I'll read something and I think, wow, that feels really cool. I'm going to just close my eyes and marinate with that for a while. So, yeah, meditation can take many forms, and it could be, a few seconds of gazing out the window, or it could be, an hour deep in yoga nidra or some other form of meditation. So, so that's number two. So the next thing that I do, and this is often I'll do this in the morning after I've done those first two things, the next thing I do is move. And my moving these days is very different. It used to be every day, an hour and a half yoga practice. That was it. I don't even know how I managed that back then with three little kids. Um, Now my movement practice is really different. I took up strength training about 6 months ago, which has been phenomenal. I love it, almost as much as I love yoga, but not quite. But I love yoga, so qigong, uh, any kind of movement like that. But I also do a lot of walking, and I swim. I swim a lot. So um, I don't necessarily have something that I do every day of the week on the same day of the week. Like I change it up a bit. But I definitely have regular training days where I'm doing my strength training, and I factor that into my diary because it really helps me to stay um, disciplined, and it helps me be accountable when I've got it in my diary and I know that that's the day I'm going to do it, and I like to get that stuff done first thing in the morning because it feels best in my body. Um, yeah, so moving in some way, that's my number three thing that I do every single day, every day. And I might not term it as exercise, but it'll be some kind of movement, walking the dog, um, yeah, something. I move. So I wrote these down in my notes. So I'm just checking my notes to make sure I'm on track. But I know what I do next, and that is after I've been busy and doing my stuff, every day I rest. Every single day I do some form of rest. I practice some form of rest. So it could be that I set a timer for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes and lay in corpse pose, shavasana, on my bed or on my yoga mat. I might even prop myself up in with restorative pillows and things like that. I might have a sleep. That's very rare, but sometimes I'm tired. Like yesterday, my husband and I went out for the day. We had a really big day, and we got home. We both laid on the bed, and I'm sure I fell asleep for about 20 minutes or something, and that was great. So that was a rest. Often my rest will be yoga nidra. That's been one of my go-tos since my kids were little, and and even like now, if I say I'm going to practice yoga nidra, or I'm going to have a lay down and do a yoga nidra, my kids, if they hear me say that, they go, "We're now going to practice yoga nidra." Yeah, just one of those recordings that I listened to years and years and years ago. Um, so yeah, I rest in some way. And sometimes I might grab my 8-minute speed nidra that I made for Insight Timer on YouTube, and I'll practice that. I really, really enjoy that. That's a quick one, and I will link that down below. I'm just getting used to this YouTube jargon. I'm so not used to it yet. But yeah, that speed nidra, I find that really helpful. I think it's 8 minutes, and often when I have to go out to work, and I've been busy doing stuff at home or getting prepared for yoga or whatever, and I have to go, and then I think, no. And if I'm short on time, I'll do that speed nidra, which I think is really, really good. Or the other one I do is the grounding yoga nidra, because that one's super fantastic as well. Um, Yeah, so brings me to number 5. Number 5, I would have to say, and this has probably been my greatest um, practice that I've had to remember and dig in, and that is to give thanks, to be grateful, and to remember to be grateful. Because I remember years ago there was a man named Bert Weir who worked uh, at the relaxation centre in Brisbane. For any of the Brisbane people who are listening to this, and he had a course called The Centre Within, and it was a great course. It was just all self-development, and he talked about ain't it awful, ain't it awful. And it can be really easy to get into that mindset of ain't it awful, ain't it awful. And I'm not going to even pretend that I'm perfected, because I go there at times for sure. But when I remember to be grateful, especially for the little things, I reckon that makes a massive difference to my day. It can pick me up. It can send me into a deep and soundless sleep. I can just, especially when I sense into the gratitude for just being alive and being guided, trusting in guidance, um, and gratitude for that guidance. Um, yeah, so journaling, meditating, moving, resting, and giving thanks. They're my 5. Um, they're my 5 practices that I would do every day in some form. And I think it's really great to remember that life is about being flexible. It's about changing. It's about moving with your inner rhythms. And what practice worked for you 20 years ago, or for me 20 years ago, it just might not resonate now. So being flexible and open and curious, and listening to the pulsations of the universe, like what's life telling me right now? Life might be telling me, hey, you're stressed out, Manda. Chill out, have a lay down, do your yoga nidra, do your gratitude practice. And I know when I'm, and these practices, they're every day. They're non-negotiables for sure, as well as coffee. I have to say that's a definite non-negotiable. Um, um, yeah. So, there's a lot of information out there about these practices, about these little things that can make they can make such a big difference to our lives, and they do take discipline, especially when we're first beginning. Um, just to implement the practices into our daily round can be huge. So if I had one word of advice, I would say, um, you know, take a little step, add a little thing into your day, and then just see where it goes to from there.